This week, President Biden signed an executive order to improve the administration's efforts to free the more than 60 U.S. nationals held hostage or who are wrongfully detained abroad. The new order aims to increase information to their relatives and to impose sanctions on the governments and terrorist organizations that hold them captive. But some families say the administration needs to do more to bring their loved ones home. To discuss this, I'm joined again here by Diane Foley, whose son, James, was an American journalist kidnapped in Syria in 2012 and killed by ISIS in 2014. Since then, she's been advocating for the freedom of Americans held abroad through a foundation that bears her son's name. Diane Foley, thank you very much for being with us again. And we always want to say to you, our heart goes out to you on the loss of your son, Jim, even though it's been 8 years.
Thank you, Judy. And that's partly what was heartbreaking for me today, to see so many families going through this again, Judy. It's heartbreaking.
You were here bringing together this organization, Bring Our Families Home, unveiling a mural. But it's a reminder of how much still needs to be done, you were saying.
Exactly, Judy. These families have come together out of desperation. They are so afraid their loved one will be yet another American who's abandoned abroad.
And this executive order that we mentioned, the president has signed, among other things, holding governments and these so-called non-state actors like ISIS accountable. How much difference do you think this is going to make?
Deterrence is essential. I think our government is trying to solve this increasing problem, Judy. So I'm very grateful for all that's happened. But the families want their people home. And for that to happen, we need our president to prioritize that action, which is difficult because there are so many things that captors want, and it requires shrewd negotiation, diplomacy, consideration of so many of our policies.
And I mean, I hear you saying that the government isn't doing enough, that it's one thing to have this executive action, which will hold. It is an attempt to deter these governments, to hold them accountable. But you're saying more. Exactly what more?
Bringing our people home, Judy. We need to prioritize the return of innocent Americans. The only reason these people have been taken is because they're American. They're political prisoners. They're prisoners because they have an American passport.
You're talking about dealing with governments in some cases and with terrorist organizations. Is either kind of captor easier or more difficult to work with?
Well, to be honest, some of these state actors are even more complicated because they love to interfere with our foreign policy and use our citizens as political pawns. So they can even be more complex, more troubling, annoying, frustrating for our government. It has to be hard. So I know it's complicated, but I also believe in the United States of America. And these families, frankly, are counting on the president to bring some of their loved ones home before they die. It'll be 8 years since Jim was executed in August. And their fear is that their family member won't be able to last long enough till they can come home.
So when the Biden administration, a representative, I was just reading the special envoy for hostage affairs, was saying today that President Biden knows every single case. He's personally committed. Do you feel that? Do you sense that?
Our Roger Carstens feels that, and he is so committed to this issue. Our president obviously has a lot on his plate. The Bring Our Families Home campaign are just this coalition of desperate families just wanting to talk to the president. And that hasn't happened.
We heard one of the points the administration makes is that there's they in order to act on some of these cases, they need to be able to say this is a lawful detainee, or I should say illegal detainee. Making that determination, they suggest, is a process.
Well, it is. And all of these 64 plus have already been wrongfully detained. There's hundreds of others, but it is a process. We need prioritization to actually bring our people home, Judy. We need to care as a nation. We need to have the back, not just of our brave soldiers, but also our brave journalists or aid workers or businessmen who go out in the world. You know, these citizens are counting on our president.
And you've said every single one of these cases is different. They are each one
very
is unique. Each one is unique with a different set of circumstances. What would come across to you as a sign that this administration is doing what you're saying, is taking what you're saying seriously?
This campaign has requested just a virtual meeting with the president. I just, you know, and doesn't have time for them. And that to me is sad, because these are our people. And I really think our president would care if he heard the stories. These are breathing, living sons, daughters, husbands, wives. To me, it's obviously a very personal issue. And I know America can do this. And I implore the president to hear the voices of his people.
One other thing I want to ask you about Diane Foley. You, over the past year, have met 3 times with one of the men responsible for the death of your son, Jim. Did he express an explanation, an apology?
He did.
What did you hear?
He did. Alexander Cody, that was part of his plea deal, that he was willing to talk to families. And Jim would have wanted me to do that. He wouldn't have wanted me to be afraid of him. And I think it was very good for Alexander and for me to be able to see each other as people. And he did express remorse. And of course, he had his reasons. And the sad part is everyone lost. He lost his citizenship. He won't see his family again, and we lost.
And do you feel in any way that in talking to him that you came away with a better understanding of why something like this would happen and how it might be prevented in the future?
Well, yes. I think it's very easy to misunderstand when you never interact with someone else, and to engender, like, he was brought up with all this hatred of the West. You know, and it was just fed in the jihadist ideology. So to me, that was important, too, to, you know, reach out to him. I mean, otherwise, the cycle of violence just continues, Judy.
Diane Foley, a remarkable act to be able to sit down with him. Thank you so much for talking with us.
So grateful for you.